podcast, A Penny for Your Thoughts with me, Steve Penny. Over the coming weeks, I'm going to be talking to some great people. I hope you enjoy listening in. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much, Matthew, for coming along and spending some time talking to me today. I've been looking forward to talk to you after I met you at the last Yarnsman event. I think what you're doing there is great, and I want to hear a lot more about that. But if you wouldn't mind by starting with a quick intro, who you are and what you're doing, and then we'll start going into where we go with the conversation. So over to you.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks very much for having me on. I'm Matthew Steans. I'm founder of the Yarnsman, which is a Christchurch-based suicide prevention charity. I classify myself as a successfully failed entrepreneur. My background is in corporate treasury and management consulting, so kind of bringing that corporate brain and business brain into suicide prevention. So really, I suppose the purpose of the Yarnsman is to create opportunities for men to experience life through good yarns, and we've set the goal of yarning with every working age male in Christchurch over the next 2 years. That's very ambitious considering we're talking about 110,000 people, but it's you got to start somewhere.
You've got to have a goal, haven't you? That's
right, something to work towards. And so some of the things we're looking to do, well, we have our monthly Yarnsman event where we have a guest speaker and over some food and a good opportunity for a yarn, and then we're looking at how we can expand out from there. So going forward, we're going to be doing we're looking to raise some money and build a coffee machine e-bike, and then some other cool events. So the things that we're playing with like a big kids bike-a-thon. I don't know if you were when you were a kid or had kids that the bike-a-thon around the block with tinsel and decorated bikes.
Yep.
And I'd really like to do something like dog sled racing round Addington or something like that. We're talking about out there, fun, cool events and an opportunity for a yarn. So watch.
That's throwing just around the corner from here.
Yeah, it's but cool things that you don't get the opportunity to do very often. So watch the space.
I think it's a great thing that you're doing. I'm quite involved with mental health charities myself. I'm currently on the board of MAPS, which is the Mental Health Peer Support Group, and prior to that I was on the board of Canterbury Men's Centre as well. And the thing that comes across to me is that men and mental health is a serious issue, and we don't talk about it anywhere near enough. And I think things like what you're doing, the Yarnsmen, is actually opening the door for people to have a conversation, even if it's not about what they're thinking about. It allows them a safe space to speak to other blokes and feel like they're not going to be ridiculed for what they say. And I think a lot of men feel like they can't have emotions and they can't be sad and they can't be depressed and all of these things because that's not their job. Their job's to be the strong one and all the rest of it, which is literally killing people.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and the stats or the data that we've been working with is, most of suicide attempts generally have a relationship breakdown in the 12 to 48 hours prior, and suicide statistics are made up of it's over 50% of working age males. So that's really the start target, and we're trying to be for every man. We're not crisis. We're not we're not the men's centre.
Yep.
It's to be able to do things that's not I don't want to say cringy or a bit too woo woo, but we just want to be for everyone and have those opportunities. So it doesn't need to be a hard conversation. It can be just having a yarn.
Yeah, I think that's the idea, is to stop it getting to that point, really, isn't it? That you're giving people an outlet that they feel they can safely use before they get to the point where they're thinking about making the decision to kill themselves. And that's, in a way, it is the best way to do it. If you catch them just at that point, it's a little bit too far down the track a lot of the time.
Well, I put suicidal behaviour into 3 buckets. So there's I'll call it impulsive reactionary thing, so extreme bad day.
Yep.
And that's really the place we want to operate in. Then you're going into underlying mental health issues, maybe known to a GP, and the third bucket being the longer term mental health challenges, and that's something that I don't think we can help. Sure, we're open to it, but you're stopping extreme bad day, and really the way to do that's through connection and building up that support.
And one of the other things I've started doing is working with Orange Sky. Do you know Orange Sky?
Are they the
homeless people charity? So they've got like mobile vans.
Yes.
Yeah. They do showers and washing machines and drying machines, and the idea is you're giving the people that we work with, they're called friends rather than the homeless. So we're trying to reconnect with them, because I think that a lot of the time homeless people feel disconnected from everything, and at least you talk about connection, but having that connection can stop you further declining in your mental health, and it's an opportunity for them to feel a bit more human, because they get to have a shower and put clean clothes on, and it's a small thing, but I think it can make quite a big difference, because you suddenly feel like you've got a bit more humanity and you're a bit more part of something rather than just on your own, and that I think that's underestimated how important that kind of thing can be.
Yeah, so one of the things we're working on at the moment is putting together some data or some measures of success, and the whole idea of social health is a concept I want to play with. So, when we think about well-being, it generally covers if your diet, sleep, exercise. But if we add in connection there, what does that look like? And then how do we put some metrics around that? So, who or how many people can you contact in your hour of need? We want that to be, I think, an idea. I think we've read some research that, that needs to be more, 3 or more. What's your involvement in the community? How many contact points, or how much time have you spent with friends or family outside of the house or outside of your significant other? And there's a couple of other pieces we want to feed into that. And when you start to look at it that way, and if we just be hyper focused on Christchurch for a while, I really think we can turn the dial, turn the needle, whatever you want to say. Yep. So again, that's a watch the space. I hope to nail that down soon.
I think it's something that's always going to be evolving as well, isn't it? So I think it's great what you're doing. Let's change a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about your personal circumstances?
Yeah, so I guess there's the personal story behind this, and then we can go to here. So it'll be over 12 years ago now. I was going through a period of depression. I'd had a relationship breakdown. I'd been king hit in a bar, so I was dealing with concussion, and I don't like burnout, but I'd been worked really hard, because my background of corporate treasury and management consulting, it's work hard and things like that. So going through all of that, struggling with what to call it, and one particular day I witnessed a suicide, and that kind of sent me down a bit of a dark place, and from there I went and got some help, went public first, and then went that was a slow burner, and then they asked me questions I'd never had to answer before, so that put me in a dark place. So from there I went private. We had the resources to do that, and after getting out of my first therapy session, cognitive behavioural therapy session, I had a bunch of missed calls to find out a friend of mine had died by suicide as well, and that set me off on the crusade to do something about it. And I suppose it took, I can keep going into it if you like. So with my career, I had, data and technology to inform decisions, whether it be, making billions of dollars of payments or whatever. So my thinking was, why couldn't we do the same thing? I moved to London not long after all of that, and had been kind of looking for things to do. I became a trustee for one of the mental health charities over there, but I wanted to be more hands-on. I read a book by Johan Hari, Lost Connection, really about, depression or anxiety comes about from a loss of connection, whether that be to people, nature, purpose, etc. So that was in my mind. The other thing that I found really interesting was, why is it that guys have to wait till stupid o'clock when you're in whatever state to actually have a yarn?
Yeah.
and that kind of stuck with me, and to this later work. But my first real crack at trying to do something in suicide prevention was I set up a social venture in UK, Stigma Statistics, to enable suicide prevention through data and technology. And so we had a web-based platform for the collation, sharing and analysis of suicide data, and worked with local authorities and kind of local suicide prevention groups. Had a little bit of success, but selling into local authorities is bloody hard, and just reporting on deaths is a bit grim. So we moved in there to developing suicidal behavioural monitoring technology for public places using Internet of Things beacons. So there's some, big tech stuff. And if we were successful there, we would have saved thousands of lives. Unfortunately, the third-party beacon provider didn't deliver what they said they would, and that wound that up. Moved back to New Zealand. Well, it was nearly three years ago now. Yeah, really wanted to continue the work, so we set up Hope Upstream for the research, evaluation and development of suicide prevention initiatives, and did some research and tried a few different things, but we found that's far too high level and waffly of what do you guys actually do. It's not very relatable. And there's too many hope charities around. So we were fundraising and people were like, "Oh, you're doing a great job," and I was certain that they didn't know who we were. I am Hope, Voices of Hope, and certainly the things here. And there's a thing around hope. It's good for when people are in a dark place that they have hope, but it's sort of almost overused. And so we did, done some research, and then we're like, well, let's get a bunch of guys together and try and have a yarn. So we did that first one, first Yarnsman event, was that November last year? We did it at 231 High Street, which, old office space, and it was double booked for a KFC Christmas party, which was kind of funny because Punjabi MC was playing in the background while I was speaking. But the feedback from that first night was really fantastic. It was something along the lines of, I want to reflect to you on the strangeness I felt during the evening, just taking turns answering a question and listening with another guy felt so alien. I think it's the most intimate I've felt with another man. Whilst I can't describe the feeling, I wholeheartedly think it was a positive one. And so from there, we're like, we're onto something here, and it kind of went with that. It was time to change the name to something a bit more relatable, and kind of, here we are now. And so I guess the going back to the personal life, I'm now I'm engaged. We'll get married in October.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We're actually just at talking to the cake person before. We're going to get a Basque cheesecake cake. Yep. Which is interesting. Anyway, something completely random is that we found that we're unable to have children because I have a 0 sperm count. Oh, right. Which is that's a whole other interesting thing. And so there's a couple of things there which so I'll talk about it a bit more because this is hugely interesting. So I have dextrocardia, which means my heart's on the other side of my body. Some of my organs, my abdominal organs, are also in the different place, and it's called situs inversus. So there's a smaller amount of research that says, and because this is incredibly rare, like it's at least 1 in a million, it may be that I'm just infertile for that. So now we're trying to find a doctor that has the curiosity and capacity to kind of work that through. And basically, I just want to know why I can't, why I'm like that. But it's a really interesting thing.
It is. Yeah. Something it's like never judge a book by its cover, because you wouldn't know that from any other, from looking at you and anything else, that there's some weird stuff going on.
Yeah. It's obviously I don't want to ruin someone's wedding speech, but I think someone's going to say that guy's heart is really in the wrong place.
Just give you a hint to your best man.
Yeah. Well, I think he's been making noises about that. So, but interesting.
Yeah. So we kind of looked at the inspiration of why you're doing what you're doing now, but just go back a little bit earlier. How did you get into the corporate finance space?
I studied finance at Canterbury Uni, and I graduated in 2008, and I don't know if that date means anything to you, but that's global financial crisis time.
It means quite a bit.
Yeah.
I was in the Middle East. I was in Dubai.
Oh, right.
So, very aware.
So did you leave your your Beamer or your Audi in the middle of the street and fly home?
I actually arrived there in October 2008, and the GFC arrived in November. And I was working for a business over there called WSP. When I joined them, I was about the 1100th person in their team. And by the time I left them in May the following year, so May 2009, they were down to 250.
Sure, yeah.
And I'd been on the list to be made redundant, I think, 4 times in that 6-month period of time. And they kept taking my name off because they were using me to make other people redundant.
Oh, right.
Which was horrible. I think there was 200,000 cars abandoned at Abu Dhabi Airport.
Yeah, I think that
everything from Land Rovers through to Maseratis, and they ended up having a big auction and selling them all off about 4 years later for like almost nothing. Yeah,
I remember seeing those photos, and in later years, one of the organisations that I worked for in London, they were global business process outsourcer, and we did have, offices in Dubai and Abu Dhabi and things. So I was my responsibility was setting up banking or dealing with banking over there, and that was hard. So yeah, I mean, I came out in 2008. I landed a first job in for an e-commerce company because I wasn't getting anything in finance then. Plus, I got my degree on a recount, which meant I wasn't exactly first draft pick. But then I was at Christchurch for a bit. Then I was at NZX in Wellington, and I worked in settlement and clearing for the wholesale electricity market, which is a really fascinating thing. So this is, selling from the 5 generators, well, there's more than 5 now, and selling to the retailers. And yeah, I was working with all the treasurers and things like that, and I just became really fascinated with money. And so yeah, NZX is get young people and work them hard, and then you go and get another job where you might get paid slightly more and work similar hours. And so then I was in Auckland working for a treasury outsourcer. So what is corporate treasury? I probably should have started with that because everyone asked me that. It's ensuring that money is in the right place at the right time in the right currency for an organisation. So it's really transactions. Yeah, really dealing with cash, dealing with banks, that kind of thing, debt, investments, whatever. Being although not that it really happens in New Zealand, but corporate hospitality with banks and things, that's that's all part of it. But
actually, that's quite interesting with the expenses.
Well, yeah, especially when they're not my expenses. There's certainly, there isn't that doesn't happen in charity world, that's for sure. And, one of the things that really started to stick with me is with all that, you go to these corporate events and it's pretty soulless. People are selling to you. They're not actually trying to be your friend, although, I did make some good friends through that world. And that kind of ate at me a wee bit.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of examples of that where the big corporations do seem like they steal your humanity to some extent. Like you don't feel like you're treated like a human being, more just of a number on a spreadsheet somewhere.
And that I really felt that. So I think at the peak of my career, I was working for a FTSE 100 company. I was basically deputy treasurer. Something happened, I got blamed, and then I was pushed aside. And I had a lot of my, I think, identity of this is me being successful. I'm earning good money. Life's great. Yeah, just I think I look back to that time, but I was thrown aside at a moment's notice, and I'd worked my ass off for them for 3 years. Well, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear on that, but yeah, fuck them, right?
Yeah, basically.
And it really dehumanising, and I'd always sort of really been interested in the entrepreneurial streak, but I think it needed to be something purpose-driven. To do that, and it's that was all it was a long time coming.
Yeah, I mean, I think my own experience with the corporate world, in the Middle East, I worked for an American-based company over there. I found out I needed to have surgery on my neck. Had 2 of my discs removed because they were both impacting on my spinal cord. Sure. Went in and told my boss, and he made me redundant.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which was fantastic.
Motherfucker. That's all, right?
Yeah, so I then went back to see the doctor because the doctor said it was reasonably urgent and it was done. I went back to see him and said, look, I've just been made redundant. And he said, well, you're on a month's notice. You've got health care. I'll do the operation now. Your health care will cover it. So that's what I did. I spent my month's notice recovering from neck surgery.
Well, I mean, that is one of the things that I guess I miss was, some of the healthcare benefits and things.
Yeah, so it was not a great experience.
No.
I enjoyed working in the Middle East. I think it's a place that I would have regretted not going. It's one of them places where I'd never really thought about it, but an opportunity came along and I thought, why not? Give it a go and see what happens. And, it really tested me from a professional perspective. The projects were just amazing. And also from a personal perspective, because unfortunately my wife wasn't able to come out because of some health issues. So she ended up staying in the UK with the 3 kids, all under the age of 8 at the time. So she was really under the gun, like a single parent family really, for 2 years. We drifted apart, very nearly split up. So there's a lot of stress around that. But so the overall experience was pretty crap. But from a professional perspective, I'm glad I did it for that reason alone. Really, I'll never go back.
Yeah, how do you cope with the heat? Probably all right if you've been there.
It was weird, to be honest. It was really weird. I got there in October, and it was probably 30 degrees in October. And I was walking around in a shortened T-shirts, and everyone else over there was wearing long jeans and sweatshirts.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what the hell are you doing? It's 30 degrees. It's bloody freezing. And by the following year, I was exactly the same. If it was below 30 degrees, you put a jumper on because it was cold.
Yeah, I haven't entertained the idea because I would just be a sweaty beast and it'd put everyone on. I couldn't function there to be in a suit or anything.
Day while I was there, it was 55 degrees, and that is the only time while I was over there I actually got sunstroke.
Yeah,
it was horrendous.
I think that's how I would die. I joke about it, but it's probably true. But
yeah, it's the thing with it most of the time is it's pretty dry heat, so it's not horrible. But it's probably around about September time, they have their humid season, when you're sitting up at 40 degrees and 80% and 90% humidity. That is no fun. No fun at all.
Yeah.
But, look, Dubai is a great place to visit. There's a lot going on there, but you'd only need to be there probably for a week. And once you've been there for a week, you've done everything. And there's not anything else left to see, really. But yeah, I definitely want to go back there. It's off the bucket list, as far as I'm concerned.
Good to know.
Okay, so looking at where you're at right now, what would you say is your proudest achievement to date?
That's a great question. I think, if we look back to, I'd say two things is really, or maybe three things. Through stigma statistics, we were able to get bereavement support to over 100 people, bereaved families, through the technology. Identifying and passing that on, I think that's a really good thing of stopping the ripple and getting people support who need it.
Yeah.
I think today I'm really proud of the progress we've made with the Yarnsman. The fact that we can sell out our small venues and get different people coming each time. Equally, the getting interesting speakers to stand up and share their story is really great.
Yep.
I'm really proud that I've continued with my purpose and passion of suicide prevention, and whilst I say I'm successfully failed, I've learned a lot. Yep. So that means that now we're on version 4 or 5, that I believe I've got all the tools to really make this happen and be successful and save a lot of lives. So that's exciting.
Yeah, of course it is. And I think having that kind of legacy is amazing. That you're doing something that is literally going to save people's lives. My job is very mundane by comparison, really. But I think it's something that's badly needed, and to have the drive and the dedication to get up every time you get knocked down is just that shows a lot of inner strength. So it's something I'm very proud of.
Yeah, thank you. I've got on the screen of my phone, I've got what success looks like, and it's a big squiggly mess.
Yes.
So just a reminder that it's not straightforward, but when you can work towards saving a life, then that gets you out of bed and keeps you going, and even in some of the darker times.
Real difference.
Yeah, that's right.
Just a catchphrase, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's I think there's a lot of corporate beasts that have that make a difference every day kind of logo, but it doesn't really mean anything in their context. It means something in a more personal context, and certainly what you're doing is very good, and I'm pleased to have gone along to that one event I've been to so far, and I'll be at the next one. So
cool.
Look forward to that.
Yeah, thanks for supporting us. And I guess that's the thing that I've found hugely frustrating with the corporate side of things. So, I worked at EY in London, and they have the EY Foundation, which is meant to support social ventures, through their staff and things. And I felt that was just a branding exercise for them. And they only wanted, big award-winning kind of organisations to be a part of it because it was to boost their profile. Yeah. That's not getting shit done. That's not helping people actually achieve anything.
It was like whitewashing over an issue, isn't it?
Yeah, whatever it is, definitely. And so to be able to get out and do things, and I think, I'm seeing that people are wanting to support the Yarnsman more because they see that we're actually doing things and we're achieving, which is a really positive
I
thing.
mean, that's what it's all about. Getting some results that actually help people is what matters. So yeah, keep doing the good work. I think is all I can say on that. So another question is you obviously had to change your perspective when you were working in the corporate world and then you moved into doing what you're doing now. It sounds like it was personal circumstances plus being around people that had taken their own lives. That is the biggest thing that impacted for that change, I guess?
Yes, yep. I think it's probably a build-up of wanting to do something meaningful, but probably talk more about the perspective shift from, say, stigma statistics and wanting to have a technology-enabled solution to it. Because in that time you had to build a tech startup and do some things and raise some money and do all that sort of stuff. It didn't really fit. I've been through most accelerators and incubators, from Cambridge Uni's social venture incubator to Google for startups, all about, to put a pitch deck together and go and do it. So we were trying to chase the jackpot of saving lots of lives. And really, if I think back to the Johann Hari Lost Connection book and that experience of, how do we connect with guys, it's really about connection. Yeah. And having a yarn, and no matter what you do, there still needs to be a human element to it and bringing people together. How do we swim upstream so that we don't actually exist, which is weird for when you're trying to set up a model of how to operate a charity and you want to be successful so you don't exist as a charity.
You're no longer needed.
Yeah, that's right. And so I think that change of stop chasing the jackpot and just get out and help people connect.
I think that's like the idea of doing what you're doing well, but in a smaller market, and then hopefully it will gain some traction and it will grow on it, in its own way. I think there's a lot of businesses that start off wanting to take over the world and then fail because they've tried to go too far. So the whole analogy about eating an elephant, isn't it? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yeah.
And if you try and take too big a bite, it's going to overwhelm you, and you're not necessarily going to get the success you want. And I think a lot of the time, the small successes are actually more important because they're more achievable and they motivate you to try again. Whereas if you get a big failure, it can be completely wipe you out if you're not careful.
That's right, and I think that the whole grassroots led is really key. Yeah. We're hyper focused on Christchurch and want this to grow organically. So putting some frame around that as we're trying to grow and put a whole lot of fire, fuel on the fire to grow organically. And so I'm excited about what can come out of that and keeping an open mind and make sure we're connected with the right people as we grow. Yeah. Sure, I'd like to be a national charity and 5 or 10 years, but we've got a lot of work to do in Christchurch before then.
Yeah, make Christchurch a model that other people copy, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds like a good idea to me. Who would you say has been your biggest influence up to now?
It's a good question. I think if we look back, there's a friend of mine, Katie Lewis, in the UK. She's a Kiwi and big in the kind of startup world. She set up an organisation called 9 Others, and they have dinners with 9 other entrepreneurs. And the whole key there is your success is determined by your network. And, I used to go meet her for breakfast or coffees sort of once a month and be like, I've got this idea. And she'd be like, no. And then when I talked about stigma, she was like, yeah, I think you're onto something. And she believed in me and supported me while I was not only formulating ideas of how I could save lives, she was, just instrumental with connecting me with, lots of different people to make it happen, right? Yeah. So that's one person. I think the other person I would say, there's a lot of people here in Christchurch, but Carl Davidson is someone who I just think's fantastic and kind of he's at Research First, so that's that kind of data-informed approach, which is what needs to happen in suicide prevention, but great for talking ideas, challenging me and kind of enabling me to make that happen as well. Yeah. There's a whole lot of other people, but I should probably even say my mum. Yeah. Someone asked me recently, who's your hero? And I kind of thought about it for a bit, and then they told me a story of how young Māori guys had been saying in a rugby team that their mum was their hero, and Well, it kind of amazed me, because if I would have never said that, because it had to be someone like, I don't know, not that it's Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, but it had to be that
big successful person. Yeah.
Big swinging dick. I don't, no, but it's definitely my mum. That grit and determination in raising 5 children now, and being a fantastic, out there and weird and wonderful person, and so love that.
Fantastic. Mums are great. They are really important. We underestimate them until they're gone. I think personally. I mean, my mum unfortunately passed away earlier this year, and it was a real shock. And I'm still not dealt with it. I don't think it takes a long time to get over, and I think I regret a lot of not telling her how much she meant to me as often as I should have. And just sometimes mums go appreciated because they're just always there. So you expect them always to be there, and it's. Yeah.
Well, sorry to hear that. I'm not sure if you follow Jason Gunn. I know his mum passed away sort of a year ago, and he's been public with his grief of dealing with that. And I think the thing is, it just takes time, right?
It does. There's lots of different tools you can use, and lots of different things about the different stages of grief. But one of the things that I heard, my daughter actually put together a eulogy for my mum, and she got it as a quote about the grieving process, about how it's like being in a stormy ocean and you get hit by wave after wave after wave, and you just keep getting up. The next wave comes and you get up again. The thing says, over time, what you find is the waves don't get any less in terms of the power. They're just less frequent, and you have more time to be ready for them when they come. And it is very much like that. My mum's birthday's next week, and I'm kind of dreading it because it's the first one since she's died. My dad's on his own in the UK. Just worried what he's going to be like. He's really struggled. They were married for 60 years.
Sure.
So he said every time I look over at the sofa and she's not there, it feels like I've lost half myself. And just all of that stuff you don't really realise what it's going to do to you until you lose a parent. It's kind of, I don't know. It's hard to talk about it, really, to be honest. But
well, I suppose maybe one of the relevant things that I can speak about here is in suicide bereavement.
Yeah.
There's that kind of initial 2 weeks to a month, and everyone's around supporting you, and it's kind of overwhelming. Then there's that month to from there to 6 months, and then every kind of anniversary and things, and kind of a lot of bereavement or grief support is focused on that initial period, but actually you need to worry about the 6 months. Anniversaries and whatnot.
I talked to my sister. My sister's still in the UK, but they live quite a long way away from my dad, and we're trying to work out what we do for my dad on Mum's birthday. Do we make a thing of it, or do we not make a thing of it? What's the best way to go? It's really hard to know. For us, I think we want to mark it in some way, but probably not a big celebration. Just a sort of reflection, I guess, on the fact that she was around for 69 or 79 years.
Well, I'm assuming that the old boy won't want to make a fuss, but would love it if you'd actually made a fuss, or if you make a fuss.
Yeah, well, we made a mistake because I was back in the UK for the funeral, and we decided that my mum loved Pizza Express, absolutely loved Pizza Express. So we took my dad out for dinner to Pizza Express on the day after the funeral, and he was in bits the whole time he was in the restaurant because he couldn't believe she wasn't there. I don't think. And it just, it was really quite hard to see him like that, so vulnerable. Again, he's a child of the 60s. He's an old school bloke. You don't see a lot of emotion from old school blokes. And it's kind of, what the hell do I do?
Yeah.
But, I think it's good. He's actually become quite able to talk about things, which is really great to see.
Yeah, it's positive.
We're hoping to get him over here as well. Got to send this podcast to him and tell him he's got to come over.
Yeah.
Talk about him all the time. But yeah, I mean, I think that family connection is so important. I think that's one of the things I found is that since I've started my own business, I've made a point of making more time for my family and trying to be around as much as I can, and having those connections with all of your families from a mental health perspective is absolutely essential. I think we got off a bit off topic there.
Well, it's about we've got to be prepared to go down some rabbit holes.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. So changing rabbit holes. What do you do to fill your cup to recharge your batteries?
Another good question, and this is probably I wish I could practice what I preach a bit more. When my body is willing and able, it's going for a run. I got back into running and then I had some surgery, which meant that I couldn't get back into running. Well, I couldn't run for a bit, so now it's starting at square one. I used to be really religious at going for a lunchtime walk and listening to a podcast or doing a headspace walk, clear the head and things. I haven't been doing that of late, and I need my schedule to change. Well, I can make it happen. Obviously, I control my schedule. Yeah. I need to get back to that.
It's a habit, isn't it? That looking after yourself is a habit. It's something you have to practice.
And we've moved from further away from Hagley Park, so I can't just walk around Hagley Park at lunch. So I'm probably grieving from moving away from that. But connecting with people. I think one of the things is to try not to have anything on at nights during the week so I can be present. Yeah. I get a lot of, enjoyment and recharge from meeting interesting people and having good conversations. But it is that, like you say, spending quality time with friends and family. On your phone the whole time. Yeah. Yeah, be in person. I guess, I'm privileged that I get to meet a lot of people and get that, but trying to connect with people in the weekends that where I'm not when I'm not always talking about suicide is quite a good thing. And over a bit of a conversation. Well, sometimes. It can be, but I think the needle's moved on that quite a bit. People aren't as sort of put off as talking about it, but connecting with people I'm a massive extrovert. So being around good people does recharge me.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons I do this is the stories that I hear from people are quite inspiring. Listening to how people overcome quite a lot of adversity sometimes. And, you wouldn't know to look at them, what they've been through, and then just listening to the journeys is just, it's just excellent to see. And, one of the hopes I have is this, in some small way, will help somebody else that listens to it and realises that, everyone has these things in their life that happen and that they don't have control over sometimes, and that there is a way through and it's not the end. And sometimes it feels like it is. I mean, my own struggles with depression, I'm very open about that. I find that I catastrophise everything. Every situation, the only outcome is the worst possible one. Mm-hmm. And it can be completely paralysing. You've got to try and make a decision. Running a business, you make decisions every day. If the only outcome you can imagine is the worst one, it's really difficult to make a decision. Yeah. And it's trying to find those tools that allow you to deal with those different stresses, and having family connection and being able to recharge your batteries in that way is so important.
There's 4 components of self-efficacy, and I always forget the 4th one, but it's really around connection, role models, psychological traits. So what you're talking about, of telling a story so that someone you might feel relatable, it's really what we're trying to do with the Yarnsman in our podcast as well, which we'll be getting you on soon. Standing up, having the courage to stand up, feeling and helping people feel empowered to share their story is a really special thing.
I think one of the things that surprised me is quite close to the start of my business, I actually got my first real diagnosis of my depression, and I decided I wanted to write about it on LinkedIn, and that remains, I think, the second highest viewed one of my posts on LinkedIn. My wife Chrissy and other friends were saying that'd be a really bad idea to do that, because people think that you've got issues and you won't be able to do your job. And I went, well, that's exactly the reason why I'm doing it. Yeah. Because I am doing my job, and yes, I've got issues, but I'm dealing with them, and I'm dealing with them openly because I'm not ashamed of it. And I think part of the issue that we have with mental health is people are still ashamed about it. They're ashamed to admit that they've got a mental health issue. And one of the things that somebody else and one of my other guests talked about is that insurance companies discriminate against mental health in a way they don't discriminate against anything else. You break your leg, your premium doesn't go up. You have depression, your premium goes up.
And you, what's the other one? That was something along the lines of if you go to a psychologist, over a period of 3 years, it's a long-term issue and it's not covered. Yeah. Again, that's bullshit because mental health's dynamic and you can need a top-up or whatever it is at different points of your life. It's not static at all.
Seeing a therapist is part of your self-care.
Right? Preventative.
It doesn't have to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist. It can be a counsellor, or it can just be someone that you're able to talk to. It doesn't matter who he is. But if you don't have that person that's not intimately involved in what's going on in your life, hasn't got a view on what you're doing, you can't really share and get some valid advice about what's going on. I think it's essential that you see someone.
Well, here's where we're moving with the yarn spinners. We're kind of considering doing social prescribed yarns. So we've had a couple of people turn up with their GP or their psychologist has sent them along, which is fantastic. But we're going to look at really honing in on that. Yeah. Now GP practices have, well, some, not all, have what do they call it? A health improvement practitioner, a HIP, and a health coach. So through those, if people could prescribe to a weekly yarnsman yarn, when you come along, answer the 4 questions, and hey, if you connect with that person, why not
have a coffee? Every week or whatever.
Yeah, we set it up, but you can continue that on without us, and I think that then you don't need insurance. It's a light touch.
Just a cup of coffee.
Well, we'll do it from the coffee machine e-bike, but that's self-sustainable. Yeah. Right, you've got the tools to do it. We put you in a room, we can kind of start the conversation, and then away you go.
Advice to your younger self. I think this is a really hard question to answer, because I got asked this question when I was being interviewed by somebody that wanted to do this for me, and it's kind of it's really the question is, would you change anything?
No,
and that's fundamentally for me, no, I wouldn't, because if I changed anything, I wouldn't be where I am now, and I like where I am now. But it's kind of, is there anything else that you'd say? Would you take? One of the things I've said to a lot of the younger people that I've mentored in the past is never say no to an opportunity, because you don't know where it's going to lead. And I kind of didn't say no to opportunities, so I took that piece of advice, and I can't think of anything that I want to change about the way I was in my 20s.
The only thing, being genuine is such an important part of me.
Yeah.
I think about in my corporate life and, some periods of my personal life where I was around people who wanted me to conform or be a certain way. And I felt really uncomfortable with that. I couldn't always explain or understand it. I mean, I might have done some ranting about it, but, the advice of continue to find your place. Yeah. You don't have to accept anything. You can push through. I mean, clearly I get shit done and make things happen. I don't have to settle for those, be in those environments where I can't be myself would be keep going. Yeah. Keep going. You're on the right track, right?
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest piece of advice. You're doing okay,
yeah,
really, isn't it? You get there. You're happy where you get to. Carry on doing what you're doing. I think the other thing is when you're in your younger years, you should really try and experience as many different things as you can, whether that's in your work life or your personal.
Oh no, we very much did that.
I think you might need to delve a little deeper.
Yeah.
Some examples?
Well, I think the one that I don't mind talking about is I was lucky enough to do psychedelic therapy before I left, let's just say Europe.
Okay. Amsterdam.
We won't go into the place. But that was like years of therapy rolled up into 4 hours. So I did psilocybin, magic mushrooms. That is one of the best experiences I've had in my life.
Right.
There was a spiritual healer there to support me if I needed anything. Was on a couch with an eye mask and a playlist, and just went in. I'd love it if that was here. I think that would solve a lot of problems. The 60s and 70s certainly killed all the research into it, but the research shows promise, and I know from my own personal experience that it's really worthwhile. So that was the story behind that. Was I was catching up with a friend before I left the UK, and she was in town, and she wouldn't tell me over the phone what it was about, and she was a reasonably straight-laced person, although curious mind. I didn't expect her to say that. So within, I think, by the end of the dinner, I'd booked a session and booked some travel to go and make that happen before I left, because you don't get those opportunities.
No, definitely not. No, it's an unusual one. Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that story. That's not quite what I was expecting. Okay, so if you got the opportunity to have a dinner party with 2 or 3 guests, people that you really want to have a conversation with, who would be on your guest list?
Ricky Gervais.
Okay, yeah. Why?
I think he's hilarious.
Yeah.
And I think we need humour. And he's a really well-researched and well-informed comedian. I thought about this a while ago. I'm drawing a complete blank, but someone that is inspirational. So I think, a comedian, a musician, and someone really inspirational who's made something happen.
What's your musician to go to then?
Oh yeah, that's a good one, because I change. So at one of the sessions that I run's like the stress traffic light. And, how do you tell when you're stressed? And so my green is I'll listen to all music. Then when I'm really stressed, I only listen to gangster rap. So right. I'd probably want a rapper or something in there. Well, maybe Dr. Dre would probably be. That would be there. And then, I think about someone inspirational like an Obama or something like that. Can I have some context to continue my journey, right? Yeah.
No Donald Trump in there? I'd have Donald Trump just so I could poison him.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of things going through my head of what the conversation might be quite interesting if it was one of the ones. Was it Howard Hughes? He used to do a radio station with. Was that the guy? And some of the comments that came out there. Yeah, that would be not quite on brand, but yeah, we would have a bit of humour, a bit of entertainment, and some thought provoking and outrageous as well.
Yeah, I think Ricky Gervais is certainly challenging sometimes when you listen to what he says. But I think that Hollywood must hate itself to have him back doing the Golden Globes so many times.
Yeah.
Because that was just, you knew exactly what you were getting after the first one, and they had him back, 4 more times?
Had you watched the series Extras?
Yes.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
They must have known what they were getting into if they, those ones.
The fact that you got so many big stars on that program was quite amazing, really.
To take the piss out of themselves.
Yeah, basically,
Yeah.
But he's got that character that the Office, the David Brent character has really made him, I think. And that's really been his platform for everything else he's done. But it just, I think he's fantastic. The way he talks about really important topics is just, he's obviously very well researched, as he said, and really knows what he's talking about. So, very good. Okay. Books. Do you read a lot of books? You've mentioned one book a couple of times. Is that? Yeah,
I do read books when I've got the headspace.
Yeah.
So, I think I go through periods of wanting to find out about something or fuel my...
More kind of autobiographical or...
Yeah, non-fiction for me. Business or... I don't want to say self-improvement because it's not it's, psychology. So, Malcolm Gladwell, David Brooks. Yeah, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on authors today, but, there's the other one that I read, Together by Vivek Murthy, and he was Surgeon General of the States twice. And so that's like the Lost Connection by Johann Hari, but it's a bit more, recent and up to date there. Anything that kind of challenges your perspective and gives more information.
To widen your horizons is always a good thing. My go-to for that is to travel, is to go and be in different places. Like working in Dubai was a different experience to working in Europe. working in New Zealand, it's a different experience. So I think there's a lot to be said for broadening your perspective, because we can get quite narrow-minded and have a single point of view, and that's the way that you stop innovation and stop changing. And we're not. I've seen a lot of people saying that the human race needs to evolve. We've stopped evolving at the moment. We're kind of stuck in the mode of destroying where we live, and don't seem to be able to find a way out of that, which is a bit depressing view. But when you look at what we're doing to the planet, it's not far from the truth. So I think we could all do with expanding our horizons a little bit, being a bit more community focused and a bit less self-focused.
Yeah, and curious. So for me, I start a conversation, or I go about, with I'm looking to be, tell me I'm wrong, and someone put that as a quote as I've got strong views lightly held.
Yes, yeah, I like that phrase. Yeah, that's a good phrase. I think some people have weak views strongly held, which is kind of the worst situation.
Yeah, a strong view that they really don't understand what they're talking about.
Yes. Yes. What about travel? You mentioned you went to the UK. Is travel something you do a lot of?
Not currently. When you don't earn any money, bought a house and we've got a wedding, that's kind of this. But yeah, no, travels. Love travel. I think now that we're not going to have children, we don't have to worry about schooling and things like that. So it might be an annual European holiday.
There's always an upside.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm interested in that. But
so if you had unlimited funds to go anywhere in the world that you've never been, where would be the first place?
Ooh, that's a hard question. I start by saying that my two favourite holidays. Well, I've had some amazing holidays, weekend benders in Europe, but so Istanbul, I loved that, going to Gallipoli and being there, and Morocco. We went to the Sahara and stayed a night in the desert. Drank whiskey in the sand dunes, and just that whole, that was different because I'd never experienced anything like, the whole Medinas, just the culture, the people, the food.
The bazaars are amazing.
Right.
In Istanbul, and I've been to Egypt and to Turkey, and the bazaars are just amazing. You couldn't get much more of a hive of activity. It's just overwhelming almost.
Right. Yeah, that was the bit that I just loved it, and the bartering or the haggling on
everything.
Yeah, and I love that. That was fascinating. Yeah. I want to spend probably some more time in Asia. I always sort of left that to when I was going to be back at home because it's a bit closer. Yeah. And would love to spend some time in South America as well. That's somewhere where I haven't spent it. Unfortunately, I won't be able to have a stag do in South America, but...
You probably wouldn't get too many people going with you.
No, I mean, a lot of people talk, that'd be great, but, I had my 30th in Las Vegas, so...
Wow.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, enough said about that.
Yeah. Lands in Vegas, stays in Vegas.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, actually, at the time, I think there was 2 shootings. The Strip was in lockdown while there was 2 people shot dead, and so I'm like, where the fuck are we and why are we here? I found it really soulless. And
yeah, that was I've been to Vegas once, and that was when I was working for the company in the Middle East. Their head office was in Vegas. So when I was probably about 2 months in the job, I went over there for 2 weeks, and I stayed in a hotel just off the Strip, and I have to say it just made me feel a bit dirty being there. It was really cringy and yuck, because I was really not seeing Vegas at night. I was seeing Vegas during the day, and it's no good without all the darkness and the lights.
And you need a lot of money. I remember being in bars and there's people getting, Dom Perignon carried out with sparklers, and it's like $5,000 for that. And it just, anyway.
Well, the other side of it I found Vegas, which I thought was really depressing, is there was every hotel had a casino on the ground floor, and the hotel I was staying in, I'd go out down for breakfast in the morning, and I'd see people putting their coins into the slot machine. I'd go out, do a full day at work, come back, the same person on the same slot machine. I talked to a couple of them, and they said, this is what we do. We get 2 weeks holiday, we come here, we take every penny we've got out of the account, and we try and win big so we don't have to work anymore. It's just so depressing.
That's grim, isn't it? That's sort of a lot. Well, I suppose it could be hopeful, but that's life to some people. I'd rather be on a beach or
Absolutely. I mean, so your holiday is sitting in front of a machine that you could be doing in your house. Why do you spend money travelling to somewhere to spend more money doing something you could do at home?
Yeah, crazy.
Don't make any sense to me at all. But there you go. That's Las Vegas done. Okay. What about music? You said you love music. Is there a band or a singer that you really wish you'd seen that you never did?
Oh, well, so I went to a gig at least once a month when I was in London.
Right.
I went to a Dr. Dre and Eminem gig. That was like, white boy from Timaru there, but that was fantastic. Yeah. That was so good. I mean, yeah, I've seen anyone and everyone that I really wanted to see. It was like getting to a point where, I was still in London when COVID hit, so I didn't quite get to see everyone, and when they come to New Zealand, they're tired. I remember seeing was it Kings of Leon, and they were at the arse end of a world tour. I paid $200 to go to this thing, and they didn't want to be there. Whereas you pay £10 on a Monday night to see them or anyone, and they're just pumped, and everyone's having a good time.
Yeah. Did you get to Glastonbury?
Oh yes, I did.
Did you? What do you think?
Oh, that was an experience.
Was it or was it a dry experience?
We got a bit of both. So we glamped.
Yeah.
We went there for 5 days. Sharing a tent with a very good friend. We had a 3-metre flagpole with the New Zealand Maori flag on it, and that's really helpful for navigating, crowds of 250,000. Yeah, well, we had big crew there. Yeah. It was a journey. That's for sure. I think I lost 5 kgs in the 5 days because we weren't eating a lot.
Yeah, and drinking quite a lot.
Yeah, we'd had the Camelback full of gin, and then we just had water or mixers and various other things. But I loved it. My favourite memory is when the sun's setting and people are taking off their glasses and looking at the state everyone was in. But that was special when you get to see all the
experience.
Yeah.
I've never been myself. I kind of look at it and think I just don't think I can cope with that. It's a bit much for my tiny little brain, but it does look like it would be something that you just certainly look back on and say I'm glad I did.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I could cope with doing that again, but it was so good. And, in the UK, there was all the day festivals and things like that, so we were really spoiled. Yeah.
I think that's the thing that probably I miss from being in Europe is the access to stuff like that. Over here, the concerts turn up occasionally. They're either in Dunedin or in Auckland. If they're in Christchurch, like you say, the people look like they've just had enough and want to go home.
Well, the challenges here are drinks, lines, and how aggro people can get here. Yeah. Whereas overseas, it's a lot more. I never saw a fight.
Really?
I don't know whether it's because I was in a state where I couldn't see, but I didn't see it very often, and people were friendly. Yeah. Whereas that's not the experience I've had when you go to music festivals here. So it was just a better user experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the interface was much nicer.
Yeah.
Okay, last question I've got at the moment would be: have you got an opinion that you would say is an unpopular opinion?
Oh, well, let me pause. We're going to pause this bit for a bit. Because I'm pretty out there, and I'm not always. I suppose I do speak my mind. I've got better at that. So what I think's not always right. I strongly believe in the burning platform theory. Okay. If you don't like the platform we're on, we've got to light it on fire and move to the next one. Yep. And so really, that's kind of what I'm doing. I have had quite a public unpopular opinion about the role of the Suicide Prevention Office in this country. Right. It hasn't been resourced and hasn't really didn't do what it was meant to do. So actually just get that money out to grassroots initiatives. Yep. We don't, what's a government organisation going to do? Yeah, sure, it's going to highlight and make sure there's the right data and all the reporting and there's kind of a national alignment. But they've failed on that miserably to the point of why bother.
So the data they've got is not accurate and it means nothing.
No.
It's badly interpreted.
Yeah, I could go off on a massive rant about this one actually, because I tried to give my platform away to New Zealand, different New Zealand government organisations and health organisations. They make it sound harder than it needs to be, and they're spending too much money on consultants who don't know what the fuck they're talking about. That's
kind of common in government circles, I'm afraid.
Well, that's why part of building a charity now is to do it in a sustainable way that does not require government funding. Because if you start a charity and say, "Oh, I need some money," with your hand out, that's not going to be sustainable. When it's going to be a lot of angst and pain trying to find that money. Of course, he's saying that as I'll probably still need some funding to get going, but. You've got to look at this differently if you want to solve it. I mean, yes, there are some fantastic organisations that do some fantastic things, but we need to look at it differently, and that's part of the challenge for me.
If what was being done currently was working, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing. So,
yeah.
That in itself tells you there's a change needed.
Yeah.
It's not something, you're not trying to make a market for what you do. What you do needs to be done because there is an issue with men's suicide.
Correct.
So, I think I've got to a point in my career where I've decided that I can be quite disruptive because I've done everything that I want to do in my career, and I'm not going to be blocking myself from getting that promotion I've always wanted or anything like that. So I'm quite happy to go out there and say stuff that upsets people, because sometimes people need to be upset. If you want to change things, people are going to be uncomfortable. And uncomfortable is not where we want to be. And there's nothing wrong with challenging the norm if the norm isn't working. I think you're right. Burn things a bit.
Yeah, and I guess I've probably got really comfortable with it where I am and the narrative. I think people are getting more comfortable supporting that.
Yeah.
And so I think I go back to that corporate world where I was uncomfortable. Because I'd say things that would offend people, and I couldn't function as a corporate drone. But here I'm free to say and do what I want within reason. But I really believe in what I'm doing, and people are getting behind that now.
I mean, you're very passionate about what you do, which is it's really important for what you're doing. To have that passion and that determination to make it successful is the key part of it. Really, I think stubbornness.
Yeah, I don't know if that ended in an unpopular opinion, but there's a couple of rants in there.
Well, rants are always good. They get clicks.
Yeah.
I might put the rant at the start.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, is there anything else that you'd like to share today?
No, I think I can give you the socials and things to follow, but I'd love to have more yarns in Christchurch, and I approach this problem with open arms, so looking at ways we can collaborate and do more events. If anyone has any really out there ideas for events and want to come and do that with us, let me know. I'm be well up for that. But just thanks for the opportunity to come and have this yarn.
No problem at all. It's been great talking to you, as I thought it would be, Matthew. Thanks for your time.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you for listening to my podcast, A Penny for Your Thoughts, with me, Steve Penny. I hope you've enjoyed today's conversation, and I look forward to sharing my next conversation with you in the future. Thank you.